911-2020. Guys, you're looking at the Atlantic Ocean satellite images, and you've got double systems. You've got a tropical storm to the right, Paulette, that is at 65 miles an hour. Now, in this image, if you look very close right here, you're going to see the island of Bermuda. And that's really in the target of this first storm, and that's the curve right there. And that's pretty much where all the maps have it going now. Behind it is Renee, and more than likely we're going to see something very similar to what they were talking about a few weeks ago, and we mentioned it, the Fujiwara effect, where this storm you see coming in on the right and the storm behind it will merge and be pulled into the North Atlantic. There's other systems. But on the left, guys, this is starting to really wrap up, and I'm concerned. It's starting to affect the weather in its immediate area. And notice across Florida and Georgia here up into the Carolinas, this first outwave of pressure as these two systems are meeting. Now, I'm going to back this thing out and let you take a look at the entire Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. Right now, here in central Mississippi, we had just some very light sprinkles today, and it's coming from that Gulf system. It's been very dry here since the last hurricane that came through Louisiana, and so much destruction through that area in Arkansas, guys. But it's been very dry, and if it stays a tropical depression, which I have my doubts, to be honest with you, look at how this thing's starting to wrap up. And the surface level rotation is much faster than the high level rotation. If you'll look at this and notice, but at the, again, surface level, plenty of activity here. Now, this thing is projected to come across the tip of Florida possibly tonight and go into the Gulf of Mexico. It's already looking this size and this much activity again at the surface level. That's where they decide where a system becomes a tropical storm or whatever it is because of the low level circulation, or LLC, I think is what they call it. So we're going to have to watch this thing coming into the Gulf. Now, before we look at the National Hurricane Center forecast, let's look at the wide Atlantic view. Here is your first system, again, 65 miles an hour. Here's the second, much smaller storm. It's at 40 miles an hour sustained wind. And according to a lot of the models now, this system is going to be basically pulled into the first tropical storm and pulled into the North Atlantic after it skirts the Bahamas. And we hope as it's getting this big that it follows that trail. Now, behind it in Africa, guys, totally different story. Again, we're going to look at the forecast. This thing now has a very high percent chance of development. I think it's around 90%. We're going to look at the new updates together here in just a few minutes as the Hurricane Center gets ready to do that. Now, there's a disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico already. Right there, they're watching it. It's also on the forecast track. And this is what's starting to throw a few showers your way if you're in the central Mississippi, Louisiana, Panhandle area there, guys. And again, to me, it's much needed at this point. We don't want to have any damage. And the one that we're looking at now that's setting off the coast of Mississippi is projected to turn south, maybe head down towards the Bay of Campeche, towards the Mexico area, because of the front that's about to get caught up in. What it's doing is setting up for some pre-rain before this other larger system comes in. Again, we need it, but you guys keep an eye out on the system now that's there. For heavy thunderstorms and bands that may develop over the next day or so and set up some flash flooding for the storm coming behind it. Now, a quick look at the satellite that focuses on the Gulf of Mexico in this particular image. And here's disturbance. I think it's number 1. We'll take a look at that. It's offshore, but just like the systems that we've seen before, the top right quadrant is these things skate along the coast. Remember, the last few systems kept throwing a lot of storms along the shore, and included thunderstorms and tornadoes. Again, right here in the center right of your screen is the storm that's coming in, and you can see clearly here the outflow starting to throw up thunderstorms ahead of itself. So we need to keep an eye on this, guys. A lot of activity. We're near the peak of hurricane season now. It ends November 30th. So things are hot, things are active. Let's look at the forecast. And guys, we're kind of a little extra busy in the Atlantic right now. I see two threats to the U.S. other than some really much needed rain again from disturbance number 2, 30% chance of development, and it's going to dive towards Mexico or the northern Bay of Campeche. Here's our first problem, and it's 80% chance of development. Now, our main two problems, again, like I said, are going to be here, disturbance number 1, this is disturbance number 2. Has 80% chance of cyclone formation in 5 days. The other problem is here, 90% chance of cyclone formation in 5 days. And there's a very large area, you saw that on the satellite images, that's being affected by this particular system. And here, guys, behind the orange is the Cabo Verde Islands. And like I said before, usually when they head north here, or they're already north of those of this area, by the time it gets to the Caribbean, they will move into the Atlantic. 99 out of 100 times they will do it. Now, this one, again, is pointed towards the Caribbean. Let's start here with the forecast. And it's saying this shower and thunderstorm activity located over the northern or northwestern and central Bahamas and the adjacent waters continues to show signs of organization. In addition, surface observations indicate that pressures have fallen over the area since yesterday and, along with the wind and satellite data, suggests that a broad area of low pressure could be forming between the northwestern Bahamas and South Florida. This system is forecast to move westward at about 10 miles an hour and could become a tropical depression while it's near South Florida tonight. So you guys pay attention to this. If not, the disturbance is expected to become a tropical depression while it moves slowly west-northward over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico this weekend and early next week. As I'm saying, if they're saying early next week, you look for Sunday night, Monday, somewhere in that area, because when it gets in, crosses Florida and gets back into open waters, things are going to re-strengthen. We're just going to have to pay attention to it. It says this system, regardless, is expected to produce local heavy rainfall over portions of the Bahamas, South Florida, and the Florida Keys during the next couple of days, and interest there, as well as along the northern and eastern Gulf Coast, should monitor its progress. Don't worry. If you are not subscribed to our channel, do, because we do watch them when they get dangerous and close like this. Again, second problem here. This 90% chance of development. 5 days. A broad area of low pressure associated with a tropical wave is located a few hundred miles south and southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands and is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Development of the system is forecast and a tropical depression is expected to form within the next few days while the system moves generally westward, straight into the Caribbean at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. 70% chance of formation, guys, in 48 hours, 90 over the 5-day period. Again, if it stays at this southward angle, either the Gulf area will have to watch it in the Caribbean or somewhere along the east coast. So again, let's pay attention to that. We'll look at a couple of the models. Now, here's a storm that we're watching following the system moving across Florida tonight. Again, it's very strong. You can tell it is, but it's supposed to come up, escape Bermuda, come a Cat 1 and then a Cat 2 in Monday to Tuesday and do that curve. Now, that's what we want it to do, and again, it's far enough north where this is probably a very accurate path. The spaghetti models show a kind of a dip in it, but I think what we're seeing between this storm and Renee on these particular models, again, is that Fujiwara effect between the two depressions, or two hurricanes. And the storm behind it, again, tropical depression. It's at 40 miles per hour. And right here, it's doing a loop, guys. And that's what's making me think that because it's so much smaller, that the other storm is going to pull it, it's going to slow it down and then wrap itself around this storm as it pulls it in, and they're both going to head north. And I think that's what this loop is indicating. Now, what is interesting about the second storm, Renee, is that the Navy model shows that stop and then that turn, and it continues. And then one of our other models we watch a lot is the CMC model from Canada, and it shows a loop back. But I think the Navy has it right on this one, and it's just too small of a storm to do much more than to be pulled up in that gap in high pressure along with the first one. Now, taking a look at the U.S. Navy model of the wide Atlantic, you can see that both storms are kind of pulled together here. Right there in this very center is Paulette. Renee's kind of right behind it. Circles around, everything gets pulled north. So you guys, just keep an eye on that if you're in the North Atlantic on either shore, to be honest with you. Now, here's the system that we're watching now. They're not really focused on it that much, but it does show it come across the tip of Florida and come in somewhere around the Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana area there, which is very close. All of these states are very close in this area as far as their coastline. And check this out. Right there is the second system. Not showing much on the large one right now. They're kind of focused on this one. Their models are. We've got so much going on. Imagine trying to put the data in for all of the systems. I think that's what we're seeing here. But again, just within a couple days, we've got a system setting right here over the Gulf. It almost looks like, the northern Gulf states. And it looks like it pulls ashore, sets back down and sets there. And there's where you're going to have any rain problems. Notice that? It just kind of pulls back down and sets there. Not that strong yet. But as this thing comes across Florida tonight, you're going to see these models start paying a little more attention to it. Now, switch to the Canadian model, guys. Again, you've heard me say many times the Navy and the CMC seem to be the most accurate over time. And what we're seeing here is kind of the absorption of the first two storms. Here, we're seeing a system coming out of the Gulf. But check this out. Here is your first storm, your second storm being pulled into it, and the third storm that was already pushing north towards Cabo Verde. Here, you're going to see the development in the center of the Atlantic for the storm that has a 90% chance of development. Again, they're kind of focused here. Notice our system coming into the Gulf, coming up in about the same area right there, Alabama, Mississippi area. But notice that storm number one does a turn and comes back up towards Texas. But what's happened, the reason it's doing it according to this map is that the red and the orange layers are high pressure. And if they're solid, then the storm moves straight west or is even pushed south somewhat. And so we're seeing a relief in the pressure, just like the storm is going to cut through the gap here, right here over Texas. And all this the storm is going to come up because there's a break right here in the high pressure. See that? So that could happen. 2020, I doubt nothing. But guys, we're watching all of these things. You guys in South Florida, in the Bahamas, the Keys, anywhere in that area tonight, you keep a close eye on this thing and watch for heavy thunderstorms, lightning, possibly some water spouts. Depends on how quickly it moves through your area, because you know you're surrounded by very hot water. I mentioned in the video a couple of days ago, I saw 110-degree temperature coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. It was a heat index, but I don't doubt it, because we've been at 105, 107, higher than that. Right now, even with the cloud cover, guys, from the storms in the Gulf, we're at 100 degrees heat index. It's warm. We're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.